Hello, my dear ones. This looks familiar, probably, uh, and that's just because I haven't moved. I've I've decided to record a second video immediately after I've finished the first one, in order to kind of trick myself into restarting this new series. The purpose of this second video is to give you a very brief update of what has happened at the monastery. We'll probably go into more detail in the future, but for the time being, I need to answer this question because so many of you have written in these last 18 months to ask what has happened. Well, I believe in May this year, just before we started sail on a sailing pilgrimage to the small isles, a group of isles in the Hebrides, my monastic brother came from my first monastery in Moldavia. He came for a visit and he came to join us on that particular pilgrimage. And just before we set sail, our brother, Rasafor Nicholas, became Father Philan. We were blessed by our metropolitan with a permission to tonsure him into the monastic life. And by the grace of God, he was given the name of Philan. It is not a name we chose. We never choose the names ourselves. We select 3 names, and then during the service, we place all 3 of them before the icon of the Mother of God in the church, and we say a little prayer over them, and then we allow the Mother of God to select the one. So Father Philan is a second monastic of the community. And then later on, our sister Rasafor Paraskeva became nun Morwana. Again, we had a blessing from our metropolitan to invite for a visit one of the monastics from my first monastery in Moldavia, Mother Elizabeth, who has been in the monastery way before, about a decade before I joined the monastery. And so now we have a seed of monastic life, both in the brothers community and in the sisters community. We can now grow of our own, but we needed these first tonsures to happen. And I was very, very much hoping that they would happen with monastics coming from my first monastery, so that we are all fed from the same spirit and from the same tradition, Moldavian monasticism. For me, that's the most important development. We have had 2 new brothers joining us, and other people who came and who were with us for a while, and then they discerned that it wasn't their place to join us. But this new monastic life is, for me, the treasure that was entrusted to us by God in these 18 months. Apart from that, we've been also blessed immensely by being able to purchase 2 new properties. First is this house from which I'm recording now. It's called Flada, and it is a cottage which is identical, in fact, or almost identical with Langa cottage, which we owned next to Kilninian. Our hope, of course, was that we would use the previous cottage, Langa cottage, for ourselves, for the monastics, and then we could use Flada for our pilgrims, so we can move entirely to Kilninian. But since God has blessed us by multiplying the community, we are going to have to use both cottages now for the community, one of the houses for the sisters and the other one for the brothers, and we are still going to have to wait until God sends us the ability, the funds basically, to purchase another property for our pilgrims. Until then, we are still reliant on Oran Namara. So now we have 2 cottages for the community by the church, by Kilninian, which is an amazing blessing, especially that meant that we didn't have to build. And not having to build means that we haven't used that land around Kilninian. In fact, we've added more land, which perfectly adds on to that piece of property. The other just unthinkable piece of news, and I'm certain I'm going to record another video just about this, because it is such a monumental historical event. The other thing that happened is that completely without any sort of planning, and despite our complete lack of funds at that moment, we managed to buy a property on the Isle of Iona. We now own a property on the Isle of Iona. And when I say we, I don't mean us, the community, the monastery. I mean we, the Orthodox. We now own a place on Iona. It is something that so many other wonderful people have prayed for in the past. So many others, many of whom I've had the blessing to meet in person. I will only mention Metropolitan Callistus because he told me, I think back in 2014, when he invited me to join the last pilgrimage he ever took to the Hebrides. He invited me over and he told me that he feels he won't be able to return because of his old age and because of his frail health. He was already aware that he wouldn't return, and he assured me of his prayers for the monastery and for the development of monasticism in the Isles again. And I'm certain that the fact that we became owners of our property on Iona around the exact time that Metropolitan Callistus passed away, I am convinced that that is not a coincidence. I am convinced that by his prayers and by the prayers of everyone who has tried and fought and struggled decades before us, this has happened, because it has nothing to do with our worth or with our worthiness in any way. This is a miracle in itself, and we have to just be grateful and give witness to these miracles when they happen in our lives. So with the blessing of our Metropolitan, we are going to use that property on Iona as a small hermitage where we'll probably take turns so that two of us will always be on Iona, and as much as possible, depending on how much room we have available, the rest of the property will be used to accommodate pilgrims, so that Orthodox pilgrims have a home on Iona as well. In fact, this year we've announced our pilgrimages to the Isles, and for the first time we are going to split our time between spending time on Iona and spending time on Mull, so that everyone has half a week of their accommodation on Iona and half a week of their accommodation on Mull, so they get to experience fully both islands. It has been an amazing time. We've done a lot of work around Kilninian as well. We've finished fencing the property in. We've finished repairing the floor. It looks absolutely stunning, and I'm so grateful for the support we received. There's still a lot more to be done. The house in which we are now has kind of 2.5 bedrooms, but there is space in the loft, so that when it will become possible, when the funds become available, we are going to start the work as well in the loft to maybe put in more accommodation there. There is still a lot of work to be done, but by the grace of God and through your prayers and through your support, I am confident that this seed of Orthodox monasticism on Iona, on Mull, will just grow and flourish by the grace of God and through your prayers and your support. Oh, thank God! I just finished the second video, haven't I? Well done, monk. Thank you, everyone. May God bless you. And until next time, keep safe and be loving to everyone, especially those people who make it very, very difficult to be loving. Amen, amen, amen.